So in a moment here I'll be doing a saurbraten demo as if I'm the ultimate authority. It's not a recipe, it's not traditional. By the way, I don't think there is any such thing as traditional because we can't even agree upon the origins of saurbraten. Some people say it was Caesar, they're probably right. Those of us who are German or half German, at least like me, would like to believe that it came from the Germans. Well, in any case, it is what it is. I looked at the videos on YouTube, and there's no agreement on the proper way to do it, so I'm just going to do what I do. So any tips and tricks? No, it's just my way of doing it. So the most important part here is my philosophical statement. I believe it's the most important. Cooking is not a recipe, it's a process. Now, how do I know that? Well, because I messed up a whole bunch. And those of you who grew up with these actual cooking channels, you don't know how lucky you are. Those of us who grew up with the Frugal Gourmet and the French Chef, that's all we had on public TV. Pretty much all we had. And so we got to watch them, well, more so the French Chef mess up because she was really good at that and cutting herself and that sort of thing. But in any case, the only other way that we learned was, and learned quickly and efficiently and effectively, was if Mom was right there with us, so we didn't mess up as often. Now, I'm a more experimental cook, so of course I messed up a whole bunch. And anyway, so I'll be stopping this here, and I'll explain how I concocted my version of sauerbraten. Okay, so this is the part where I explain the recipe part of the process. How did I come upon the recipe? Well, it was the ingredients that I had available. It's my taste that I'm going by. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you want to follow my recipe, here it is. So here you go. Go ahead and write it down if you can write backwards. So what did I do? Well, I just took those ingredients and I boiled them, obviously, and basically what's going to happen now is going to be marination. I'm going to cool it down first. Now, I've seen people that boil and then put the meat in while it's still hot. No, I'm not going to do that. So here we go. All right, so I just realized that I omitted an ingredient, and I noticed this as I was draining this off. Mustard seed. I recommend, because I like it, a couple teaspoons of mustard seed in your concoction. So here it is. So I boiled this for a minute and put it in a gallon baggie. They had a lot of these back in medieval times, you know. So anyway, why would I do it this way instead of just putting it in a pot and putting the meat in there? Well, it just makes sense to me because I can take all the air out of this, put the meat in it, and veggies if I decide, and I don't even have to turn it every day like they tell you in some videos. So it just makes sense to me. So that's the way I'm doing it. Okay, so I went to Aldi today and I bought 0.8 pounds of eye of round steak. Now I know you're supposed to use pot roast or whatever slow cooking type of beef, but no, not for me this time because I got this cheaply, and this is going to be a small recipe. I'll probably use about half of these carrots, most of these green onions. Oh, green onions, yeah. Not traditional, no. And here we've got some sweet potato. And I'll probably be using regular yellow, because I love Yukon potatoes. Aren't they wonderful? So I'll get those chopped up. We'll get them in the bag. So now, for the benefit of you who may not know this, I chopped the tips, or the bottom of the root, off the green onion, and some of the, what do you call it? The outgrowth, whatever you want to call it. The reason I do that is because, well, you just don't do that. I mean, you just don't have the root of the onion in your, no. So anyway, I thought I better point that out because I don't want you to mess up. All right, I've got everything but the meat in the baggie. It occurred to me that I didn't mention that you should peel. Common sense? Well, you know, peel the yam or the sweet potato and the Yukon Gold potatoes. So I did peel them, cut them pretty big, and so now it occurs to me that, do I have enough liquid for this whole thing? I don't know. Well, we may improvise here in just a minute, but I'll put the meat in next. All right, so here we go again, reading backwards because, well, this is the best I can do. It occurred to me that you better put some salt in this. I'm not going to put a whole lot in just yet because you can always add more and you can't take it out. It's too late. So there's your proportions. About a pound. It's mine's going to have a little bit less than a pound of a very lean, cheap steak. All right. So this is where we stand. And so basically what I'm going to do is go and get all the air out of here. And we'll see how I do. All right, so here's what I ended up with. As you can see, I'm going to have to turn this every single day. Oh, what a crisis this is. No, it's not. I'm going to probably just add a 1/4 cup of wine and a 1/4 cup of vinegar. We'll see what happens. All right, so there you go. I actually used a 1/4 cup of cream sherry because it was near me, and you know, a little sweet can't hurt anything. And then a 1/4 cup more of apple cider vinegar. So this is going to go in the fridge, and there's really not a whole lot more, in my opinion, to knowing about making saurbraten. Now, probably what I'll be doing is adding cabbage last minute when I cook this stuff. So this is going to go in a bowl and in the fridge, and you know, I may turn it once in a while when I think about it, every other day, probably for 5 days. We'll just say 5 days. So I couldn't help but notice that I'm up to 8.5 minutes on this video, and my attention span is about, I don't know, 7 minutes less than that. So what I'm going to do is make this a two-parter. Those of you who are confident cooks, you'll know what to do pretty much when 5 days is up and you've turned that thing a couple of times. And the rest of you, just you know, watch for part 2, and I'll do my best to be very descriptive and detailed on what to do next. So this is going to finish part 1.